Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, July 2nd, 2020. Today I'm going to discuss the latest news that the NFL has come out with about shortening the preseason. Take a look at the new NHL CBA that's supposed to be approved. KBO and soccer games from today and yesterday respectively, and look ahead to tomorrow and today for each of those sports. Go over the golf leaderboard for the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and I'll do my 2013 Top 10 NBA players and games. Alright, first I'm going to talk about the NFL shortening their preseason. There's a lot of rumors that this was going to happen. They are eliminating weeks 1 and 4, those matchups, and then each team is going to be playing their preseason weeks 2 and 3 matches, and they're going to be played between August 20th and 24th and around like the 27th and 28th. So those would be the 2 weeks of the preseason, and then there's Labor Day weekend, and the league would, in theory, get underway Thursday night, September the 10th. So the preseason shortened, I think, was bound to happen. I think it was a smart move by the NFL. They already canceled the Hall of Fame game between the Steelers and the Cowboys, which we talked about on the show last week. And there are teams, in my opinion, that I think could benefit from a shorter preseason because of injury risks and whatnot. And at the same time, it could be a bad thing, too. But there was always talk about shortening the preseason, and that was even before COVID happened. So I think it was a smart move by the NFL, and then the preseason will, in theory, start around August 20th with those 2 weeks. And then maybe they'll have the quote-unquote dress rehearsal game, maybe the second of the 2 weeks, and then have that first week be like, have your starters play for a quarter, a couple snaps, and then have the backups play and try to compete for some roster spots. So NFL shortening the preseason was the biggest news that really came out from yesterday. Now I want to discuss the NHL CBA, which is supposed to be approved by the league. And it is supposed to include the Olympics in 2022 and 2026. So after a hiatus in 2018 for the NHL at the Winter Olympics, you'll possibly be seeing the NHL at the Winter Olympics in 2022 and 2026, which is really good for the league. I think it's better when the NHL guys play in the Olympics because it's more intrigue. The hockey, it's big for NBC and for ratings, and it's just another fun thing for the league to do. And I know these players like to represent their countries when they play, and there were a lot of disappointed NHL players, most notably Alex Ovechkin, when the NHL chose not to do the 2018 Olympics. So that is big news for the NHL. So not next season, but the following season. So the 21-22 season, you'll have the Olympics. So that'll be the first time since 2014 where the NHL will be in the Winter Olympics. So once this new CBA gets approved, we'll talk about it on the podcast. Now I'm going to recap this morning's KBO games and look ahead to the games for tomorrow. Samsung over SK 6-2. Kaiwum over Doosan 10-7. Kia over Hanwha 7-1. NC over Lotte 9-7. KT over LG 4-3. Tomorrow, all at 5:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. out in Korea, you have the Twins and the Lions. I've been saying this on the podcast every day lately. The Lions are the most improved team in the KBO over the last month. I think they continue to do so and get a win here at home against a Twins team that is very good. Then you have the Heroes and the Bears. Not the Heroes, the Eagles and the Bears. The Bears should win that going away. And then the Heroes and the Wiz. I think that's a good matchup. I'm going to go with the Heroes. I just think they're a little bit better. So I'm going to go with the road team there in that one. Then you have the Wyverns and the Giants. The Giants did lose against the Dinos their last 2 games, but they did pick off the Dinos once. They are better than the Wyverns, so I believe that Latte will bounce back from those 2 losses against the league's best team. And the Giants will get off to a good start this weekend. And then you have the Tigers and the Dinos. Good matchup. The Dinos are just better. They're starting to ride the ship a little bit. 2 straight wins over a Latte team that was playing better. And I think they'll get the job done at home against the Tigers. And now I'm going to go over the soccer game results from yesterday and look ahead to the games today. We'll start in the Premier League. Newcastle defeated Bournemouth 4-1. Newcastle is now 11-9-12 with 42 points, and Bournemouth is 7-6-19 with 27 points. Everton defeated Leicester City 2-1. Good win for Everton. They're 12-8-2 with 44 points. Now Leicester City drops to 16-7-9, and they have 55 points. Arsenal defeats Norwich City 4-0. That was predictable for Arsenal. They needed that game. 11-13-8. Their record is on the season. 46 points. Norwich City 5-6-21 with 21 points. So they have the same number of points as losses. West Ham over Chelsea 3-2. So West Ham gets the win. Chelsea has a letdown after the big win over Manchester City. West Ham with a good upset win. They're 8-6-18, 30 points. And Chelsea is 16-6-10 with 54 points. 2 games today. 1 o'clock Eastern, you have Sheffield United against Tottenham. Both of these teams, I think, are a little similar in terms of their styles and their levels. One has 45 points, the other has 44. Tottenham is better at scoring goals, but they give up more goals. Sheffield United is obviously better in goal and on defense. So, in terms of a pick, I'm going to go with the draw here between Tottenham and Sheffield United. I think that the draw has some value to it. I don't remember the number exactly, but I'm going to go with the draw. And then 3:15 today, Manchester City against Liverpool. This is a big game in terms of big brands in the sport. Liverpool has pretty much wrapped it up at this point. So I'm going to go with Manchester City here to bounce back from their loss against Chelsea. So give me Manchester City to win this game over Liverpool. All right, now La Liga from yesterday. Granada over Alavés 2-0. Granada is now 13-7-13 with 46 points. And Alavés is 9-8-16 with 35 points. The Athletic Club defeated Valencia 2-0. The Athletic Club is 12-12-9 with 48 points. Valencia 12-10-11 with 46 points. Valladolid and Levante ended in a 0-0 draw. Valladolid is 7-15-11 with 36 points. And Levante is 12-6-15 with 42 points. Villarreal over Real Betis 2-0. Villarreal 16-6-11 with 54 points. Real Betis 9-10-14 with 37 points. A couple matches today, 1:30 Eastern, you have Real Sociedad and Espanyol. Real Sociedad is way better than Espanyol. Espanyol's the worst team in La Liga. So, give me the home team here with Real Sociedad. Eibar and Osasuna. Both these teams aren't all that special. I'm going to go with the draw here between those two. And then at 4 o'clock Eastern, you have Real Madrid against Getafe. Good match. Secretly good match. This is a huge game for Barcelona. They need this, Real Madrid to hold off Barcelona in the standings. So I'm going to go with Real Madrid here for the win at home against Getafe. And now over to Bundesliga. We have a game today in that league between Werder and Heidenheim at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You have Werder, who is 8-7-19 with 31 points, and you have the away team in Heidenheim, who is not in Bundesliga, so it's kind of like a exhibition game of some sorts. So FC Heidenheim is in another league. So I am gonna go with Werder here just because I really don't know the details of the other side or the other team. So yeah, Heidenheim I'm not familiar with. They're not in this league. So give me Werder just because. Now I'm going to give you an update on the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Should be an interesting tournament. I gave out my pick yesterday of Patrick Reed, 16-1. So the leaderboard as of right now, tied for first place between Doc Redman and Scott Stallings. And a third place tie, you have Peter Malanti. You have Emiliano Grillo, James Hahn in the tie for fifth, along with Chris Kirk, Ricky Fowler, who's off to a good start, and Lucas Glover. And one more in the fifth place tie, Adam Hadwin. Big tie for 10th place. Some big names in there, Tyler Duncan, Lee Kyung-hoon among them. No, he dropped to a 23rd, so this is these are changing on the fly. So, in terms of notables, I gave you the top of the leaderboard. There's a lot of guys that have not gone yet. And some guys are just off to slow starts. Supposed to go off at 1 o'clock, my pick of Patrick Reed. Bryson DeChambeau, who is a monster favorite to win this tournament. You have Mark Hubbard going at 120. You have a lot of big names in the 2 o'clock hour as well. So, should be a fun tournament, and I'll give you a leaderboard update again on tomorrow's podcast. Now I'm going to do my 2013 top 10 NBA players. 2013 was a fun year in the NBA. a lot of interesting storylines, a lot of fun things to follow. I have a lot of honorable mentions. Marc Gasol, Memphis Grizzlies, obviously helped lead the Grizzlies to the conference finals. Joakim Noah, Chicago Bulls. No Derrick Rose, and the Bulls were a middle of the road playoff team. I almost said 8 seed, but middle of the road playoff team in the East. Kawhi Leonard, San Antonio Spurs. The NBA Finals was his coming out party, and he announced to the world that, look out for me, I'm going to be the next great superstar. Tim Duncan, San Antonio Spurs. This was one of the last great years Tim Duncan's had in the league. Obviously, was a big part of the Spurs getting to the finals as well. Chris Bosh, Miami Heat. The third of the big three in Miami. Was really a great stretch 5 that season. Dwayne Wade, Miami Heat. Wade started to deteriorate that year, but he came up big in the playoffs and in the finals that year. And last but not least, the late Kobe Bryant. His last great year in the NBA as well. I felt that he was never the same guy after he tore his Achilles back in April of 2013 in that Friday night affair against the Golden State Warriors. And then he came back in like December, and then he played for a couple games, and then he got hurt again, and then you didn't see him for the rest of the season. But Kobe in the 2013 calendar year, in the very beginning, Lakers were in turmoil, Dwight Howard, messy situation, and then he put the Lakers on his back and really carried them to the bottom of the Western Conference playoffs, to the 7th seed, and unfortunately he wound up getting injured. And now my top 10. 10, Paul George, Indiana Pacers, helped lead the Pacers to the conference finals. That was his coming out party in that playoffs. And he was the best player in that series against Carmelo Anthony and the Knicks. And then he helped the Pacers get off to that great start in the 13-14 season. And then people were talking about him as the 3rd best player in the NBA. 9, Stephen Curry, Golden State Warriors. 2013 was Stephen Curry's coming out party as well. He had the big game at MSG, in which the Warriors wound up losing to, but that was his coming out party, I felt. And then he helped the Warriors to a first-round upset over the Denver Nuggets. 8th, Russell Westbrook, Oklahoma City Thunder. Westbrook was really good that year. I think his injury probably cost the Oklahoma City Thunder an NBA Finals appearance, perhaps. But before that injury, Westbrook was playing really well and helping the Thunder, along with Kevin Durant, to get the 1 seed. 7, James Harden, Houston Rockets. James Harden was awesome that year. Obviously helped the Rockets go to the postseason, as they were the surprise team of the league, them and obviously Golden State as well that season. And then him breaking out really is what led the Rockets into signing Dwight Howard as a free agent that summer. And then as that year went along, he made Oklahoma City regret trading him away for not so much in return. Granted, that one of those draft picks turned out to be Steven Adams, but James Harden is way better than Steven Adams. And that's all due respect to Steven Adams, who's a solid player. He's a good starting big man, but he's no James Harden. 6, Dwight Howard, Houston Rockets. Dwight Howard was the best big man in the NBA in 2013. You could argue for Marc Gasol, but I felt at the time that it was Dwight Howard. I just thought he was in a messy situation in Los Angeles, a lot of drama with Kobe. And then he winds up going to the Rockets, and they turn out to be a good team with him and James Harden and a couple of role players. 5, Tony Parker, San Antonio Spurs. Tony Parker was awesome in 2013. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. He could have been the Finals MVP had Ray Allen not made that ridiculous three-pointer, although I think it should have been Kawhi Leonard if the Spurs had won, or even Danny Green, because he had a bunch of three-pointers. But Kawhi really did come into his own in that series against Miami and defended LeBron James as well as you could defend him. That's why I thought that Kawhi Leonard probably should have been the Finals MVP in 2013 had San Antonio won. But Tony Parker was awesome, and I feel bad because I think he's kind of forgotten about in terms of great point guards from this century. People talk about Chris Paul, Steph Curry's emerged, Russell Westbrook, but nobody talks about Tony Parker and how much he meant to the Spurs and all those championships. But Tony Parker, one of his last great seasons was in 2013. 4, Carmelo Anthony, New York Knicks. This 2013 was the best year of Carmelo Anthony's career. Well, that season, the 12-13 season was as well, but 2013, I thought Melo was amazing. He led the league in scoring. He's arguably the very biggest reason why they won 54 games that year and overachieved. And he really did make the Knicks attractive while he was in his prime. And then it all went downhill after they traded for Andrea Bargnani and a lot of weird front office moves. But Melo was just awesome that year. In the playoffs, he made some big shots. Although I thought he got too much criticism after they lost to Indiana. But that was more about Indiana and that being a bad matchup for the Knicks. And Roy Hibbert just being awesome. And Paul George really being awesome as well. But yeah, I think it's forgotten how good Melo was in 2013. 3, Chris Paul, Los Angeles Clippers. You could argue Melo for 3, Chris Paul for 4. But I put Chris Paul ahead of Carmelo Anthony. Even though the Knicks probably had a better season or a better 2013 than the Clippers because the Clippers lost in the first round to the Grizzlies. And the Clippers were a better team than the Knicks. And like Melo, I thought Chris Paul got too much blame for them losing to the Grizzlies. But to me, that just give credit where credit's due to Mark Gasol and Mike Conley. And I think that Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan got too much blame. And then came in Doc Rivers. And then that team winds up improving and then is a contender again. But Chris Paul was awesome in 2013. He was easily the best point guard in the NBA at the time. And he obviously ignited the Clippers to a great year that year. 2, Kevin Durant, Oklahoma City Thunder. Durant is just awesome. You know how I feel about Durant. If Westbrook wasn't injured, they're probably in the conference finals, maybe even the NBA finals. But you could argue he should have been the MVP over LeBron that year. But the problem was that LeBron won 27 straight games with the Heat. So that's why LeBron won the MVP. And plus LeBron is just the better basketball player. But you could have argued Carmelo Anthony too. But I thought it should have been Kevin Durant because he is just awesome. And he's a great scorer. I think his defensive game is and was better than given credit for. And he's a better passer than given credit for too. And I just think Kevin Durant is just great. And obviously the Thunder were the 1 seed that year too. And that was the year after they traded James Harden. And number 1, LeBron James, Miami Heat. I alluded to the 27 straight wins earlier. I think that's what made him run away with the MVP that year. I probably would have thought LeBron even if the Heat didn't win 27 straight games, but that really made him run away with the award. And he's just flat out, or was just flat out the best player in the world. He still arguably is the best player in the world. And Orlando will be a big indicator of that between him and Giannis. But with the 27 straight wins and helping the Heat repeat as NBA champions, it's obvious that LeBron James should be the top player on this list. And now my 2013 NBA top 10 games. I have a lot of honorable mentions. There's 6 of them. Heat Blazers from December 27th, 108-107 Miami wins. Chris Bosh game-winning 3 from the corner in Portland. Sans no LeBron James. Mavericks Blazers December 6th, 108-106. Dallas wins on a Monte Ellis buzzer beater. Wizards Hawks December 12th, 101-99. Hawks win on a buzzer beater in overtime by Al Horford. Bucks Rockets February 26th, so this was in the 12-13 season. 110-107 Bucks on a Monte Ellis buzzer beating 3. That it kind of rolled around the rim and went in. That was a tough shot by Monte Ellis too. And the Bucks that year were the 8th seed in the East. Warriors Thunder November 28th, 113-112. Westbrook with the go-ahead 3-pointer for the win. And the last of the honorable mentions, Lakers Rockets November 6th, 99-98. Lakers went on the road on a game-winning 3-pointer by Steve Blake, and that was the Lakers' first game against Dwight Howard in Houston. No Kobe Bryant because he was recovering from the Achilles, and it was just a fun game that night on TNT. And now the top 10. 10. Celtics Heat, November 8th. 111-110, Boston wins on a 3-point buzzer beater by Jeff Green. It was a great win for Boston at the time. Boston did not make the playoffs that year, but that was their best win of that whole season because it was in Miami against the 2-time reigning champion Miami Heat. 9. Grizzlies Thunder, May 5th. Game 1 of the conference semifinals, 93-91 OKC wins. Kevin Durant with the go-ahead jumper. And that was the only game the Thunder won in that series, and then they came from behind to win that game too. And after that game, everyone was saying, oh, Memphis is going to win that series. That was not a bad loss. And all the pundits proved to be right because everyone said, oh, Kevin Durant single-handedly won that game. They should have lost. And all the pundits were right. 8. Knicks Celtics, April 28th. Game 4. 97-90, Celtics win in overtime to stave off elimination at home and avoid a 4-game sweep. This was in the first round. Celtics were up big this entire game, and the Knicks came all the way back, took the lead at one point, and then it goes to overtime. And about, I want to say, a minute and 15 seconds left in overtime, Avery Bradley hit a big 3-pointer. It was a Mike Breen bang shot. Rare that he does it against the Knicks, but he did it there because the game was on ABC and it wasn't on MSG. Another story for another day with Mike Breen and his announcing. But yeah, Celtics stave off elimination, stave off the sweep, and then they wound up losing that series in 6 as they picked off the Knicks at MSG in Game 5, and then Game 6, they were down big, came from behind, and almost could have won that game, but Carmelo Anthony came up clutch for the Knicks as they closed out the Celtics in 6. Number 7, Bulls Pelicans, December 2nd. 131-128, Pelicans win in triple overtime. Ryan Anderson had a big 3-pointer in this game. It was just a fun game. Luol Deng had a big game for the Bulls, and that was right before they traded him away to Cleveland. And I believe this was after Derrick Rose got re-injured. And at the time, everyone was writing off the Bulls. Number 6, Warriors Nuggets, April 20th, Game 1. 97-95, Nuggets win on a go-ahead shot by Andre Miller as the Nuggets won Game 1 of that series, although the Warriors wound up winning that series in 6 games. 5, Thunder Warriors, November 13th. 116-115. Golden State wins on an Andre Iguodala buzzer-beating shot. And just like in that game in Oklahoma City, that was shortly after this, like 2 weeks after this, Russell Westbrook hit the go-ahead 3 to put the Thunder up by 2. And then, or by 1. And then Andre Iguodala comes back the other way, hits the buzzer beater. This was one of the all-time underrated regular season games between these two teams. OKC and the Warriors had a great rivalry there before and after Kevin Durant switched teams. Those two teams have always had classics in the regular season, and then obviously in the playoffs as the Warriors came back from 3-1 down to beat Oklahoma City in the conference finals in Kevin Durant's last year there. Number 4, Pacers Heat, May 22nd, Game 1, 103-102, Miami wins in overtime. Paul George hit the game-tying 3 to force overtime. After that game, everybody turned their heads and was like, oh, this Indiana team's for real. I mean, there's some people that really weren't saying that after that Knicks series win because everybody was obviously pointing the finger at Melo and people were thinking, oh, the Knicks were a fluke. Well, they were right about the Knicks, but Indiana really gained a lot of respect after that series against Miami after taking them to 7 games. 3, Nets Bulls, April 27th, Game 4, 142-134, Chicago triple overtime win. The Nets had a huge lead. Golden State comes from behind and wins the game in triple overtime as the Bulls tied that series. Or did they tie that series at 2 apiece, or did they go up 3-1? They went up 3-1 because Brooklyn won Game 5 at home, and then they won Game 6 in Chicago, forced to Game 7, and then the Bulls wound up winning Game 7 on the road without some key players. So that was a memorable game for the Bulls, and that's the game that kind of, if you look back, if Brooklyn had that game, they probably win that series in 6 games. And number 2, Warriors Spurs, May 6th, Game 1, 129-127, Spurs, double overtime win. Golden State was up like 14 or something crazy. Like, were they up 24 with 4 minutes left? Or were they up 14 with 2 minutes left? Something nuts like that. Spurs come back, force overtime. Then there's double overtime. And then Manu Ginobili hits the go-ahead three-pointer with 0.1 seconds left on the clock. And it was a big shot for Ginobili because he was struggling during the game. And then he hits the biggest shot of the game as the Spurs went up 1-0 in that series. And they wound up winning that series in 6 games because the next game Golden State blew them out. And then I think the Spurs won Game 3. Golden State won Game 4 at home. It was 2-2. Spurs blew them out in Game 5. And then they closed them out in 6 over at Golden State. And at number 1, if there wasn't any doubt, Spurs Heat, June 18th, Game 6, 103-100, Miami overtime win. Ray Allen, the game-tying 3 to tie it up to force overtime. And Greg Popovich's big regret is not having Tim Duncan out there on the floor because he needed rebounding. And that Allen 3 came off of an offensive rebound by Chris Bosh after a brick shot by LeBron. And then Chris Bosh gets the rebound, tosses it over to Ray Allen, and hits the corner 3, the tie Game 6, and the rest is history. And then Miami closes them out in Game 7, which was also a great game, that Game 7. That's an underrated game that should have been an honorable mention. San Antonio could have won that Game 7, and Mike Breen has always said over the past 7 years that the Spurs, that was the best he's ever seen a team bounce back after as bad as a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching loss. The way they performed in that Game 7, and then obviously the next year they wind up winning the title and absolutely crushing Miami in the 2014 NBA Finals. So that's it for today's podcast. I'll be back tomorrow with KBO, soccer, NASCAR, golf, 2013 top 10 NHL players and games, and any other news related to COVID or unrest in the sports or pop culture world. I'll have it for you as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.